Hello, my loves. Welcome to the 5 crucial red flags in dating that you need to know about. My name's Nina Mandare. I am a global retreat expert and a certified love coach. I want you to win in love. Now, being able to identify red flags in the beginning stages of dating is so empowering for us because they are warning signs of potential unhealthy behavior. If we don't spot those red flags, what they can lead to is a disappointing situation, right? You wanted this person to be the one, you wanted to settle, you already romanticized about having the babies and the wedding. It could end up being a disappointing situation. It wasn't what you hoped that it would be. On the other extreme, what these red flags can potentially lead to are abusive relationships. Now, we don't speak about these things enough, and we don't understand enough about them to be able to spot them. But these abusive relationships, when mentally abusive, we can't see it. And so we become stuck in a situation that we can't see the wood through the trees, and ultimately a person has control over us whether we can see that or not. And that very extreme of abusive relationship can obviously be physical and other things as well, but it can take so long to exit that. Okay, so I know that's like quite serious talk for a red flag training, but it is the reality of what some of these things can lead to. And if you have grown up in an unhealthy environment, if you understand yourself to be a daughter of a narcissistic parent, if you know that you have been in dynamics with someone that has narcissistic traits and abusive traits, then you will understand that actually abusive relationships are not that far-fetched now. And that's another reason why we have to educate ourselves, come together in sisterhood more than ever, to be able to speak about, if we wish to, our stuff in a safe space, because there are just too many abusive people out there, whether we really want to admit that or not. Understanding red flags is so crucial now because knowledge is power. It allows you to set boundaries and look after yourself, look after your well-being, stand in your power for the standards of a romantic relationship that you want. And girl, you deserve it. I want to help as many women as I can. So this training is for you, my love. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this helps you. The first dating red flag I want to talk to you about is called the fast forward frenzy. So what does this mean? This means someone is trying to rush the relationship and move things so fast without truly getting to know you. Now, what does this look like? Over the top attention. So you've just met the person, but they are showering you with texts and wanting to meet, not giving you enough space. And what this really does is gets you in a web. This doesn't give you a chance to be able to come back to your center, to be able to analyze the situation, and to assess how you are feeling, how you are showing up. Now, when we are healing our relationship patterns, when we are trying to stand in our power and make changes in a healthier way, we need time to come back to our center and assess the situation for any familiar behaviors so that we can assess how we are showing up and if this is in line with how we want to. We need time. We need time to get to know somebody. So what else does this look like? This looks like pressure to commit early. This is pushing you for that intimacy, moving into the bedroom quickly. This might be moving in, this might be engagement, marriage. It is moving so fast. You don't have a chance to assess if you like this person. What you have to remember in this dynamic as well is that we have been sold the fairy tale. In media, in Disney, rom-coms galore. We have been sold the fairy tale that somebody will come in one day and fall so madly and deeply in love with us, be so swept off their feet, and darling, in reality, why the fuck should they not be? But it's not the reality. It's not the true reality of the situation. I'm joking there. They should be because you're the bomb. But in a healthy, secure dynamic, each person takes their time to truly get to know the other person. Because we come together whole, we have our own lives, we are independent, we come together in an interdependent dynamic where you want to take the time to get to know each other. The other thing to look out for in a fast-forward frenzy is love bombing. Somebody telling you how much they love you, how wonderful you are, how you're the best thing that they've ever met, why didn't we meet each other sooner? In the space of a few days. Now, I'm not being funny, honey. We might, in our romanticizing, fantasizing imagination, drift off and be like, oh my God, I wonder if he's the one. Oh, maybe I love him, I don't know. This is in our imagination, right? And we can get caught up in that a little bit. But the truth of the matter is, nobody can love you in one day, in 2 days, in a week. And the truth is, when we are recovering from some of our childhood trauma, our unmet needs from childhood, we will go off in that imagination. We just need to hold it, come back to center, soothe ourselves, regulate ourselves. So love bombing, they will profess their love for you and their adoration for you without truly getting to know you. And that is a red flag. This intense display of affection can be a form of manipulation to get you hooked on them so that you are dependent on them. Now, this level of fast forward frenzy, this level of love bombing, it is not sustainable. This will not continue. They might have you hooked, they might have you in their web now. You might have been intimate, you might have said, I love you to each other, you might have moved in together and there's an engagement ring and there's all the gifts and the words and the promises and all of this kind of stuff. But it is not sustainable, darling. Whether this ends up, like I said, at the one end of the scale of being a disappointment in something that you hoped that would be more, or at the other extreme of the scale, turn into an abusive and addictive dynamic, the fast forward frenzy is a clear red sign for you to keep an eye on things or get the fuck out. Have your boundaries, question, stand in your power, but be careful of the fast forward frenzy, my darling. So as a reminder, this is that over the top attention in the beginning, it's the pressure to commit, and it's the love bombing. So I want you to be aware of the fast forward frenzy by taking your time to get to know the person. Set your boundaries and be aware of anyone that tries to rush you into committing too early. So the second red flag I want you to be aware of is words without deeds. Every single person watching this video, every single woman and probably man that I know as well, let's be fair, would have had a romantic person, a person in a romantic dynamic, make them promises, say that they're going to do things, and then they don't follow through. Women fall in love with words, men fall in love with looks, so they say. It is true. Women do fall in love with words. We do fall in love with words. Again, we're going back to that conditioning around the whole fairy tale. Nobody's coming to save us, my darling. And words without deeds are dead. They don't mean shit. Words can be a form of manipulation. Again, to get you hooked, to get you in that web, and to ultimately get you under their spans of control. Look out for them making empty promises. So they say they're going to do something, it doesn't happen. You might find yourself waiting around. When are they going to do that? They said they're going to do that. It doesn't transpire to be anything. It's an empty promise. It was words that were used in the moment to get what they want, to reel you in with no intention of actually delivering on that promise. So empty promises. Be careful. The second thing to look out for is inconsistent behavior. So they say they're going to do something. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do the thing, but they do it on a lesser scale. They've still technically done the thing, but it wasn't quite what they said. The third thing I want you to look out for is manipulation through words. So going back to that thought around women fall in love with words, often people will manipulate you through enticing language, grand promises. This tactic can be used to keep you around without putting in the genuine effort that a relationship requires. It's purely to get you to fall in love with them and to get what they want. So my loves, I want you to keep an eye on this one. Do their actions correlate with their words? We need to take them with a pinch of salt, and only when they materialize into aligned action can we put our trust in them. Can we start to believe that they are a person of integrity and of value and have that respect for you? Please set your boundaries and communicate what you need and what you want from the dynamic. Feel free to call them out, babes. Like, all of these words without action, hello. Let's call them out on that. Because do you know what? They also rely heavily on us not having the confidence to stand in our power and to call them out on their shit. Not anymore, honey. We're not doing words without deeds. Words without aligned actions are just words. We don't fall in love with words anymore, do we, babes? So red flag number 3 is X talk overload. Have you ever been on a date with somebody that just talks a bit too much about their ex? Ex talk overload is just a sign that they have emotional baggage from the past and they have not done the healing work to be able to come to you healed and matured, ready for a healthy relationship. Ex talk overload is also disrespectful to you in that going on a date with somebody, you should be trying to get to know each other. They should be trying to get to know you. And by talking so much about their ex is disrespectful, honey. It's a red flag. Now, where they are talking negatively about their ex also shows you how respectful they are of people in general, and is a sign of maturity. We all have things that we'd like to say about our ex, let's be honest. But in the early stages of dating, is that appropriate? We can move on to this later once we've formed a connection, we feel safe, and there's some things that we want to discuss. It's a safe space to talk about our feelings, our emotions, our experiences. Yes, that's fair. But in the early stages of dating, slagging their ex off down to the ground is disrespectful, it's unhealthy, it's a sign of immaturity, And it's also a sign of an integrity, how they are showing up and taking accountability for themselves. Now, we all know it does take two to tango in a relationship. It's not always created equally, but to be able to show up for ourselves and take accountability for some of the parts that we played in the breakdown of a dynamic, or some of the areas that we needed to work on, is a sign of emotional maturity. The other thing to look out for under the ex talk overload red flag is comparison. So are they comparing you to their ex? And you know what? This can be quite subtle, but it comes from a space of insecurity. So when they're dropping in things about their ex too much, it's to try and make you feel low-key insecure about yourself. And this would happen, right? If somebody is starting to date and they're speaking about their ex, speaking about their ex, speaking about their ex, it will make you feel uncomfortable, and it will make you feel like they're still into their ex. Or, wow, was she or he this, what do they look like? I wonder how they compare. Now, this will fuel insecurity in you because of insecurity in them. It's unhealthy to compare to your ex, whether it's directly or indirectly, or it's planting these subtle insecurities within you. And it's difficult for a healthy relationship to grow in this dynamic. That ex talk overload will hinder the growth in your relationship. Ex talk overload also means that they are carrying emotional baggage. They haven't done the healing work from their past relationships, and so they are unable to show up fully and in the present moment with you, which means the prediction of a healthy, loving relationship dynamic being able to be formed between the two of you is quite unlikely. They need to heal from their past, they need to take some time out, and they need to leave you the fuck alone. So some tips on this one then. I want you to just pay attention to how much they are talking about their ex. Pay attention to what they're saying, how they're speaking about them, and set your boundaries. Express that you feel uncomfortable about it. See if they take any notice, see if anything changes, and question them. Ask them if they feel like they're over their ex, if they feel like they have healing work to do, and if they feel like that they can show up fully in the present with you in this new dating dynamic. Red flag number 4. I call this one that hot, cold hustle. Some things to look out for are that hot, cold push, pull, come on strong one moment, pull back the next moment, come on strong again, pull back again. It's not consistent. It's one extreme or the other. It's just enough to keep you interested, yet not enough and not consistent enough for you to feel secure and not question the dynamic. That hot, cold hustle leaves you feeling anxious. It can leave you feeling like you don't know where you stand, but it also leaves you wanting more. Because they're not giving enough, it almost fuels the anxious attachment within you to keep pushing for more. And what happens in this hot, cold, push-pull dynamic is that they will come on strong and you might pull back because, oh, that's intense. And then they'll keep coming on strong until you're like, oh yeah, actually, this is great. She is in. I can relax now. Then you reciprocate, start coming on strong back to them, and they pull back. And so push, pull, hot, cold. Now, this one in particular, you need to question your own dynamics as well. So the things that I want you to look out for under this hot, cold hustle are the hot, cold, push, pull dynamic. So 1 minute they come on strong, the next minute they pull away. They're giving you just enough to keep you interested, to keep you curious, to keep you excited, but not enough for you to feel secure that you know exactly where you stand in the dynamic. You will find yourself questioning, do they like me? Don't they like me? You're trying to find the subtext in a text. You're trying to analyze their behaviors and like, well, they did this, so this must mean this. They did that, so does that mean? You shouldn't have to question where you stand. You should feel secure. And if you are questioning where you stand, I invite you to ask and be clear about what you want. The other thing to look out for in the hot cold hustle is unpredictability. You never know when you're going to see them, when they're going to message, and that can be very exciting. It can be very anxious ridden because you haven't heard from them, and then one minute they're blowing up your phone wanting to see you, and that's very exciting. But this is very dangerous, and why I say this is because where you have unpredictability, it can be extremely addictive. It's called random interval training, and it is comparable to gambling. It's comparable to the slot machine effect. And this keeps us hooked because of that unpredictability. We just don't know what we're going to get. And so we keep pulling that lever, because if you haven't heard from them for a few days, it means it's coming. And that is very unhealthy for us, for our nervous system. That is one of the key aspects of that hot cold hustle, and why this particular red flag, the hot cold hustle, you need to look out for, because with the unpredictability and the addictive aspect that can come from that random interval training, the slot machine effect, it can keep you hooked for so long. And it's so hard to escape from that dynamic once you are reeled in, just like gambling. It's the same reward pathway in the brain, and it can hijack us in the same way. So please be careful about that predictability aspect. Another sign to watch out for under the hot cold hustle dating red flag is the mixed signals. So one minute they might be wrapped up in bed with you, cooking you breakfast, doing this. I want to be with you, I want this. And then the next minute you haven't heard from them for days. It's mixed signals. Again, you don't know where you stand, and it will leave you feeling anxious. It will leave you feeling incredibly stressed. And this is not what we want in love. It is certainly not a sign of a securely attached person, and therefore will be an unhealthy dynamic to enter into. I invite you around this one to clearly express your needs and communicate what you want from a dynamic, and that you don't like their mixed signals. You don't like the push, pull, hot, cold, the inconsistency or the unpredictability, and set your boundaries. And babes, if they don't listen, if nothing changes, then walk away. As a woman of standards, as a woman that wants more and deserves more, I invite you to leave any situation where respect is not being served and your needs, wants and desires are not being met. And seek partners who show consistency, not hot cold, not push pull, not unpredictability, not mixed signals. We want consistency, we want words that align with actions, and we want that warm, healthy love on an ongoing basis. The fifth and final red flag that I want to talk to you about is the spark trap. How many times have you said, "Oh, they just didn't have the spark, I just want the spark"? We don't really quite understand what the spark means, but it is essentially a cocktail of chemicals and hormones that are flying all around our body and potentially comes back to a childhood that was fueled with chaos. So our nervous system is not actually used to or has been conditioned for calm, for peace, for healthy, loving relationships. We've actually been wired for chaos. And so when someone comes along that has similar traits to our caregivers or people from our upbringing that, whether directly or indirectly, caused us some adverse wounds, potentially trauma, what we have is unmet needs from childhood and familiarity with a person that adopts the same traits as the person that didn't meet our needs from childhood. And so what we, on a subconscious level, are trying to do is still have those needs met, to still feel worthy of love, despite not having that in our childhood. And so when we meet someone that has similar traits, we have this chemical reaction which we call the spark. And we mistake it for attraction, romantic destiny, for chemistry, or it is chemistry, but not the way we know it, for all of these things, but actually it is a spark trap. And we need to be very, very aware of this one. We need to understand the traits of our caregivers and significant influences from childhood so that we can spot them in adulthood, and especially when we are in that dynamic of the spark. So I want you to look out for a few things in this one. Look out for that intense chemistry. And this can be disguised as sexual chemistry. Like with these hormones and unmet needs, unresolved trauma, all flying around in our subconscious, the sexual attraction that we can have for this person is overwhelming and extremely exciting. So really be aware of that intense chemistry, because 9 times out of 10, it is a sign of an unhealthy dynamic as opposed to the healthy dynamic. Whilst attraction is extremely exciting, it is really important to assess the traits of this person and what is really attracting you to them. Also, when the spark trap is at play, it will have your brain hijacked so that you ignore red flags. I invite you, when you feel this high, intense chemistry, to take some time to come out of that dynamic, spend a little bit of time on your own, come back to center and assess the situation, because it can hijack your nervous system and just have you ignoring every red flag and just going for it. The problem is when we are so intensely attracted to traits of people that didn't meet our needs in childhood, that may have caused us wounds and trauma and all kinds of adversities, those traits are unlikely to result in a different kind of behavior with this person. Similar traits fuel similar behaviors, and when we become so emotionally aware and we have this knowledge around red flags and our past, we will soon be able to see that actually certain traits are predictors of certain behaviours, and those certain behaviours are not going to get us what we want or deserve. The other thing I want you to come back to your centre and to ask yourself is the long-term potential of this person. Look at the situation. What do they do for a living? What does their past look like? What have their relationships been like? What have they got to offer you? Do they have those values that you really want in your future relationship, in the person that you partner with? Or are you so fueled with this attraction, with this chemistry, with this spark that you're like, meh, I don't care. This is so freaking good right now. I know, babe. The problem again with ignoring these red flags is that we could end up in a disappointing romantic outcome. Or the extreme is that we are so caught up in the web. We are so caught up in denial. We are so caught up in addiction that we end up in an abusive dynamic that takes us so long to get out of. That brings us to the end of the training, the 5 red flags that I want you to be aware of when you're dating. I hope that you enjoyed this training. Please let me know what you thought of it. Please let me know if you have any questions. And please, 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 if you think that this would benefit a friend of yours, somebody that you know, please send them the link so that they can watch the training, they can receive the email sequence that comes after, and let's just continue to keep showing up for ourselves and the love that we deserve.